Hi and welcome back to the channel. For today's video we're continuing our London trip and we're heading over from the Lloyd's building to the Tower Bridge area of London. So there's London Bridge, the Tower of London, you've got HMS Belfast, you can see the Shard, there's a lot of good stuff around there. And the target we're going for is Girl with the Dolphin. So I'll show you on screen now what we took. So here we are back in central London. We were over in this area up around Leadenhall Street. The market's around there, the Lloyd's building's just here. From there you just head really straight down to the river. It doesn't matter which way you go, there's good stuff all the way through. And we're aiming for this area here. So you've got the Tower of London in the centre there. There's HMS Belfast, which you'll see across the river. Tower Bridge, which is a very famous landmark, and next to it is Girl with the Dolphin, which is where we were aiming for. As you can see, you've got the statue in the foreground and the bridge in the background. It is a great part of London to go to down here. There's lots of good stuff to see, but this spot particularly is well worth a trip. So we just walked down from the Lloyd's building to Girl with the Dolphin. It took about 10 minutes. And there's plenty to see and shoot on the way. Look through these side streets as you're walking through and you'll see things like the Shard peeping through, which is just further up the river. And it all looks great, so it's well worth a visit. So today's lens of choice, the 15-35 2.8. The 15mm is great for having a really wide field of view in the background, even though we're focused quite closely to the subject. Stabilizer was on, autofocus was on. This is a great lens for wandering around London. Because of the nature of the city, it's quite densely populated and you're really close to the buildings, so having this wide field of view really helps. So if you can get one of these for the day, it's well worth having. So as mentioned, we were shooting with the 15-35 lens. This shot was taken with the widest focal length, so 15mm. It was quite a bright sunny day, so we managed to drop the ISO down to low, which is 50. We were going for an effect where you get a little bit of motion blur in the water, so shutter speed was quite slow. Even though it was handheld, it was down at 1/10 of a second. Now with a bright day, even with the ISO turned quite low, we needed to put the aperture up high to f22 to get a well exposed shot. So having a high aperture number, i.e. a small hole, a small aperture, actually made the shot crisp in the foreground and background, which is what we were after. We were looking for quite a large depth of field. The low ISO meant we had low noise, and the 1/10 of a second meant we got the motion blur on the water. In terms of other settings, we were shooting electronic shutter, subject to detect was set to none, and we were shooting single shot. So there's no shortage of things to do in this area. I wandered down past the Tower of London, which you can see on screen now, and then headed down to Tower Bridge, which is probably one of the most famous landmarks in London, and rightly so, it's a great spot. From there you can look across the river, see some of the more modern glass architecture. Standing tall is the Shard, quite an imposing structure. And then back to the Tower of London for some more traditional London shots, quite nice brickwork. From there we headed down to the Girl with the Dolphin, that's the statue. From the other angle you can see the bridge behind, which is the shot we took. Okay guys, so this is the picture we're starting with. I've got a very clear idea in my mind where I want this to sit, and it's more like this sort of a picture. I wanted all the background in shot, so I've got the flexibility to do what I want with it. And it's a good job we did, because the sky is much better in this top left quadrant. So the first thing we're going to do is move that. So I'll grab the bit of blue that I want and just Control-C, Control-V for copy and paste. And you'll see another layer has appeared here with that in. I can then go to the Move tool at the top left and move that little layer around. And I'm going to bring that right in near the Girl with the Dolphin statue. So we're interested in stuff over in this section of the image. The other bits we're going to crop out, which we'll do now actually. Let's move to the crop tool. And I want from about here to here. Okay, cool. So we'll just merge those together and then duplicate that layer so we can start working on our edit. Now it doesn't need a huge amount. I do want to have quite a significant boost in vibrance and saturation. So image adjustments, vibrance, and the vibrance I'm going to punch up quite high. So that's plus 64. Saturation, that's plus 31. So a big change on this image, before, after. And it brings out some of the green in this glass in the background. You've got the colours of the statue coming out, which is what I'm looking for. So the next thing we'll do, we'll duplicate the layer, and then I'm going to look at brightness and contrast, image adjustments, brightness and contrast. I'm going to punch the contrast up quite high. So that's plus 54, and a little bit of brightness, 14 to suit. So before and after. Now you can see that parts of the image, like the brickwork, look much better with the contrast, but we've lost the blue of the sky. So I'm just going to pull that back in, and to do that I'll make a layer mask, and then I'm going to paint with a big black brush and get rid of the white sky in the foreground. So we'll go for 600 pixels with a 79% opacity and just start bringing some of that sky back through. If I just disable this layer, we can see what it looked like below. So the clouds around the tower also look better on the layer below, so I'm going to pull those in as well. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to merge all those layers together. And I'd like to pull up a bit of detail in the statue, so I'm going to use shadows and highlights for that. So image adjustments and then shadows and highlights. And we'll start with shadows. I think that will work. That's plus 6%. Highlights will tone down the sky if we want to. Probably pull that down a little bit. That's also plus 6%. Now in terms of color correction, I've got quite a lot of red in the image now. So I'm just going to pull the color correction slider down a little bit. So that's down at -2 now. Okay, do we keep the pigeon in? No. Clone stamp tool, we'll go for a brush of about 200 pixels for this. And opacity 100. And I'm just going to grab a piece of brickwork, Alt and click, and then move over and get rid of that pigeon. There's enough pigeons in London already. Okay, that's nearly where I want it to be. I think I do need to tighten the left-hand side of the crop a bit. I'm in danger of losing that bit of blue sky that we brought in though. So I might just repeat what I did earlier and just grab that bit of blue sky and paste it as a layer and then move that layer around. So I'd like to keep that. Okay, somewhere around there. And then I'll use a layer mask to get rid of the bits where it's overlapped the statue now. Okay, and that'll allow me to bring that crop in and not lose the blue sky. It's a bit tighter than I wanted it to be actually, that. So what we'll do, we'll merge the two layers, and then I'll use the clone stamp tool with quite a large brush, about 500 pixels, and I'm just going to filter out this line that we've introduced. That's better, that looks more natural. And now I can crop where I want to, which is somewhere between this flag and the edge of the image. That's probably about right. I don't really want to lose the brick in the front of the foreground that separates us from the fountain. Quite like that. I definitely don't want to lose the shard. I can take a little bit off the top of the image. Yeah, I'll do that. What else have we got? We could probably sharpen that. So filter, sharpen and unsharp mask. About 1 pixel and 80% is where I'm normally at. I'm happy to leave the bus on the bridge. I might just brighten up the statue a little bit. I'll use the dodge tool for that with about 100 pixels. We'll keep the exposure relatively light, 16%. And we'll just try and pull this up a little bit because it's quite dark. Okay, that's a bit more like it. Just pop a bit of the tail as well. Okay, happy with that. And I'm just going to pull up the bottom of the picture a little bit. So Control M for curves, and just pull up the bottom of that curve a tiny bit just to brighten it all up. Okay. And then the last thing to do is a quick run through selective color, and I'll just look for any tweaks I want to make to any colors. Okay, so before, again, it's a little bit washed out, and after, much bolder, much more saturated image. I like to go through selective color and tweak each slider one at a time, and it is just a case of observing them, seeing if you like the effect, and if so, apply that effect. So that is pretty well the image that I had in mind when I went to visit the girl with the dolphin. That's the shot I was after. You can play around with making them black and white, doing cool things like that, but that's the shot I wanted today. So I'm going to call that one done. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. It really is a great part of London to go to, this one. There's lots of stuff within walking distance that makes a really good photo. If you've enjoyed the content, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one.